Alright, so, continuing left off last video with the whole thing with the She-Hulk book. I was talking about, basically, the whole thing with the guy who was, well, the best way to basically describe what else happens in this book is that a lot of the stuff that happened that people probably didn't like about the previous set of issues under the onslaught, it gets fixed in these issues. Like, oh, and the whole thing with Titania, yeah. Prior to this book, I think she last appeared in the issue of Hulk. By the way, the cover of basically issue 22, that's Mike Deodato. Never met the guy, but I met Peter David. Awesome guy. So, at one point in the book, Jennifer is trying to get her client released. The local authorities are not listening, so she tries to use She-Hulk. Then she ends up in the cell for a while, and promising not to, of course, stay in her She-Hulk form. And then when she goes to court, she turns into She-Hulk, but she got permission to do it because apparently her suits only can fit whenever she's in She-Hulk mode. And then we have the client, where we're basically like, he has a representative. And then Mallory shows up in court and saying, oh yeah, we need to have a charge where he gets him dropped, he's released immediately. The judge is not buying it until Iron Man shows up. Yes, Iron Man. He shows up here and says, yeah, he apparently witnessed an alien attack and we need his info because the aliens have attacked Earth before and we need basically info from him. He does give him his condolences over the death of his wife. And, well, in a way, basically, Tony is basically like starting to reconcile with She-Hulk after what he did to her in the previous story, his issues. We use nanites to deactivate her She-Hulk powers, which made Jen very unhappy about that. Yep. But overall, these issues are fantastic. Peter David does an excellent job with these issues, and that's kind of what happens over the course of these 5 issues. Like, just a lot of fun. Next up, of course, we have is Jessica Jones, The Pulse, which contains The Pulse, issues 1 through 9 and 11 to 14, along with New Avengers and number 1. Those of you curious about issue number 10. Issue 10 is a tie-in to House of M, and focuses on kind of what Hawkeye was up to off-screen during the events of House of M. That's kind of what it is. So, in these issues, we start up with Jessica Jones waking up next to Luke Cage because it was confirmed in the previous book that Jessica is pregnant with Luke Cage's baby. And, by the way, the book is written by Michael Bendis. The artwork in the book is done by, well, the first 5 issues of the book are drawn by the awesome Mark Bagley. Brent Anderson does issues 6 through 7. Michael Lark does issues 8 and 9. And the last 4 issues are done by Michael Gatos. The annual is Alvaro Capitelli, which this annual itself is pretty much an epilogue to this post book. So, we start with Ben Urich. Yeah, because he's going to be another book I'm going to talk about. And we see this person in the water. And then we cut to Luke Cage, where, by the way, he's starting to go bald, but he doesn't have his mustache yet, like he did in other books. And by the way, when he gets up, he is butt naked. And then Jessica Jones goes into the Daily Bugle. By the way, I should also mention, a lot of the events in this book are taking place during the events of around the first 10 issues of, well, basically the first 5 issues of New Avengers, give or take. So, meets Ben Urich, who's no friend of hers, and then she meets J. Jonah Jameson, a man who doesn't like superheroes very much at all, except for Captain America. He's the only actually does approve of. Everyone else he despises because they wear a mask. The only reason why he supports Captain America is because he's a war hero. And of course he refers to the superheroes as vigilantes, as some people who basically influence with them. And he still has the whole thing of like, so basically he's here. He basically just goes here to, well, sign an exclusive contract with health insurance. She wants health insurance, which he's happy to provide, no problem. And they want the exclusive on, like the whole thing with her baby, because she's basically the first known superhero in recent memory to become pregnant. First one in probably years at this point. I think like the last known time they actually had a superhero pregnancy, just part of this, was Susan Richards giving birth to Valerie Richards, her daughter. And this book came out, I think it was in 2005, if I remember correctly. Yes, 2005. And that was roughly just a few years after Valerie was born. So, and by the way, this would be, for babies wise, this would be, I think, like one of 2 Bendis has ever created. So, and of course also she functions as a bodyguard because she's a superhero. But she points out, though, she's pregnant. Okay, fine. And basically her whole thing is to be a consultant on the superhuman community. That kind of makes sense, given the fact she's a superhero, but she's not close to a lot of them. I mean, she's close to Luke Cage and Danny Rand, but as a lot of the bigger ones, she doesn't really know them very well. As a matter of fact, it was pointed out in the previous series, when she was held hostage by Pertman for a year, nobody knew that she was missing. Yeah. And they just brought her to the river. And we see this mysterious person who's pulled over. Who this person is, don't know. And then we see a woman named Terry Kidder. Now, there's also a bit of a nod to other books per se. So we have this something Bendis occasionally does in books. You have text on the side of the page, but at least they'll, let's say, have on top of panels like it was in Marvel. Yeah. And she's about to be fired. And apparently, a good picture of the Avengers. Apparently, the superheroes don't count on popular people in the city. So, she goes to interview, while also seeing where Spider-Man and Vulture fighting outside. She goes to interview after going out, it looked like a date. So I think Terry, if I can tell from this panel here, that she's a lesbian, but it's not driven here per se. It's not even the whole anything. I'm thinking that she's probably a lesbian. So then, of course, she gets an interview with, of all people, Norman Osborn. I'm like, you couldn't contact Tony Stark? Nope, you had to contact one of the most despicable men in comic books at this point, Norman Osborn. So they chat for a bit, and then, of course, the whole thing with the ego, the power. And then he pretty much just picks up one hand, breaks her neck, and then shoves her in the river. Yes, and everybody mourns over her death. Yeah, and of course, it's Rob basically informs everybody about her passing. And of course, basically, Jessica has a chat with Luke Cage about it. Of course, he's fine with it. It's like, you're famous. 8. Luke Cage, superhero. Yes, everybody knows Luke Cage is. That's a funny thing that Bendis does. He loves writing the fact that Luke Cage is somehow famous, despite the fact in some books, basically, he really isn't famous. But if Bendis is writing it, everybody knows Luke Cage is. Heck, it was written in his Spider-Man book that Miles' father is a big fan of Luke Cage. I'm like, that's awesome. And I remember the comic, the scene ends with him asking Jessica, hey, you want to make out? He has her twice. It's like that was like 5. And they make out on a rooftop. Okay, now that is actually really good Bendis humor. He's usually good at humor. Yep. So then, of course, basically, it's all about. Yeah, apparently the cops are not very cooperative over the fact that this woman just died. The investigation was very slow, and then we have Iron just happily passing by. Yes. Yeah, this scene felt completely random. Oh, let's have Iron Man just happily pass by these people. And of course, they're running around. Oh, maybe Iron Man killed her. Nope. Hulk. Nope. Vulture. Stealth Man. He's freaking Stealth Man. So this, of course, Ben finds out, makes messaging that, oh, they took a hard drive. And finds the fact that she had a girlfriend. And also the fact that she interviewed Norman Osborn. And then, of course, basically, like, well, Ben York puts two and two together and finds a way to contact Peter Parker. And you see his cover of his book, Legacy, which, fun fact, was also one shot for Dark Reign. Yep, was published all about Norman Osborn, and it was written in the book, the fact that, I think it was this book and their book, where the man had basically, like, had sued him, apparently for slandering him, and pretty much nearly killed his writing career because of it. Because of one book. On Magic Rainbows. And then Spider-Man shows up, and basically, well, Spider-Man's, oh yeah, Norman Osborn is the Green Goblin, and the fact that, well, the fact that he was right, he knew it. Yeah, this is what brings me. He sued him over that. Becky, and of course, this is of course before the Walmart Day crap when this came out. So he brings up the whole Gwen Stacy thing, not by her name, but yeah. So he does know about it. So then, of course, he goes to inform Jameson about it. Yep. And, of course, apparently, like... Then, of course, the NYPD shows up with Ben Urich and looks like Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones basically brought as a bodyguard. And then, of course, basically, like... Then the walls blasted through. Then here comes Norman in his suit. Yes. By the way, we're 5 issues in, and basically now he starts acting. And then, of course, basically, like... Then he stopped by, looked like Jessica Jones, basically. Like, basically just flies up because apparently she's got flying powers. Basically nearly kills the man, but he survives. And the baby's perfectly fine. And here's another funny moment here, is like, it's beating, it's alive. Immune? Nope. And then he was like, he's a specialist. You know, Mr. Cage? Yep. Big fan. It's like everybody's a fan of Luke Cage, just like Bendis. And Bendis is the only person, like I said, he's the only person who writes it this way, where Luke Cage is famous. In our comics, basically, they don't bring this up at all. And they put this out. Known Osborn was a Green Goblin cop killer caught to face a trial. And it goes, oh, he surrendered peacefully. And then here comes Luke Cage, just picks up his limo. It's like, come on out, Osborn. You do not mess with Luke Cage's family. Come on out. So he's like, he just knocks out his lawyer, elbows him in the face, rips open the back of his back seat, and throws pumpkin bombs on him. And apparently, one time throwing his goblin mask, like a Spider-Man did to stop him. And, well, he's arrested on the spot for basically being openly, like, this outs him as a Green Goblin. Here's the reporter. Yep. And the baby's fine. And then, the next issue we have Wolverine show up. Yep. Yeah, and of course, then Luke Cage gets attacked. Yes, he is attacked in Harlem. And of course, this mysterious person. Here comes now. Okay, so the whole thing with this little story arc of this mysterious woman who attacks Luke Cage. This actually is a tie-in to Secret War. Yes, I am not kidding about that. This is the after effects of Secret War. Yes. So then we have, of course, Jessica meeting up with Nick Fury, of all people. By the way, this is white Nick Fury, not the black one. And Steve Rogers shows up. and makes some phone calls, and then of course she contacts Ben Urich, and then for something happens, and there's a mysterious light, and there's an accident happens, and Luke Cage has completely disappeared. And throughout these next several issues, Jessica Jones looks for him. Yeah, she tries her damnedest to look for him. She has no idea what the heck is going on. Because, of course, the other superheroes are keeping her out because she wasn't a superhero long enough. Yeah, and then of course, basically, she gets caught up with Hydra for some reason. Yeah, so then she sleeps at her house, and then she's picked up by Hydra for reasons. Of course, they try to identify who the person is. If you're curious, who was responsible for blowing up Luke Cage's apartment? Von Bartis, the former Prime Minister of Latveria, who got killed off in the issue of Black Panther. Yes. So then, of course, basically, is like of course, this guy works for S.H.I.E.L.D. Yes. And then, of course, basically, chatting for a while, and then S.H.I.E.L.D. shows up, and one of a master reveal, Clay Quartermain, which somehow Jessica Jones does know who he is. Now, I'm like, how the heck does she know Clay Quartermain? Maybe she went to high school with him. I have no idea. Oh, in case you're curious, though, he is dead. Currently in the comics. How? He got killed by the Red Hulk by crashing a helicarrier. Yes, with him on board. Yeah, Red Hulk crashed a helicarrier with Clay Quartermain on board, and he was brought back in the Howling Commandos book as a zombie. And of course, basically, she does ask the question, "Where is Luke?" And she's like, "You can't tell her that." Yeah, and of course, she gets upset with Joan about what happened, and which I would catch. Don't tell anybody. It's like, where is Luke Cage? Yep. And then with Ben Urich, then of course she meets up with Wolverine. And this finally leads into her finding out what Luke Cage is. And of course, basically, Misty, stop talking. And of course, she's told to get out. Like, get her out of here. Don't let her show her, babe. Hey, it's me. If it's you, you can't have you here. Luke Cage safe. It's like, I'm he's my brother, I don't know you. How do I know we had dinner? Yeah, and the only reason she's able to find a thing is basically, yeah, because she tells, like, you're his brother, his baby says you. I'm gonna see him right now. Danny, let her see him. He was slept. Yeah, I get the fact trying to keep him safe, but yeah, she's pregnant with his baby. And, like, I get the fact he doesn't know her very well. But last time I checked, think, oh, it says you, yeah, because the fact that he was the last guy she slept with. So, of course, basically, he's the father. And, of course, basically, and then Nick Fury shows up, and she tells him, basically, get out of their lives. And then they hit the paper, like, oh, Secret War. Nope, don't go with that. Let's basically go with mocking Spider-Man and, of course, mention the whole Murdoch papers. Because it's Jameson. Of course he would do that. So then, of course, next few issues leads up until the birth of Jessica Jones, Luke Cage's baby. And there's also a subplot here involving D-Man and trying to stop the jewelry robbers. He also gets arrested for vagrancy, and of course he ends up in the sewers. And Ben Urich tracks him down, and he then gets contact, like, to get him out of the sewers. He then basically gets contact with Daredevil, which of course he's known by his identity since the 80s. And to get him, like, saying, goes to Grandmaster apparently has a quest for him, and Daredevil's like, your quest is over, and he's allowed to leave. Bendis writes D-Man to be insane. Yeah, and then of course they lead up to the whole thing with the birth of Jessica Jones' baby, and all because she apparently has got powers. They think, oh, she can become a mutated baby, and somebody might be thinking, when this writes it, like, is this hospital administrator kicking her out because the father is black? Based on when this is written, no. That is not the reason why. Because of the whole powers thing. That's the reason why. Bendis is not stupid to play the race card in a comic. As far as I can tell, he's never done that. A good example of this is the way he wrote the trial of Hector Ayala, aka the original White Tiger, where, here's the thing, the prosecutor is black. Hector Ayala is Hispanic. And the way he writes the scene, some might think, oh, he's writing the prosecutor to be racist against a black man, racist against an Hispanic man. No, that's not the reason for it. And the reason is him putting on a costume to fight crime. That's what the argument is. This is over the fact Jessica Jones has powers, and the fact she got it via an accident, via like chemical radiation, I think it was. Some theorize it could have been the same things that turned Matt Murdock into Daredevil. That's been theory for the last several years. As a matter of fact, it's probably thanks to the Netflix show. So, then, of course, basically, like, they're going to kick him out of the show. Like, then Captain America shows up with the Avengers, and they take her to the Sanctum Sanctorum. And I was like, is Doctor in? Yes, he is. And then, of course, basically, he works with her. And of course, she gives birth to a beautiful baby girl, which is not named yet. She's not named until the annual. Yes, and of course, Spider-Man brings up, oh, the last time that Doctor Strange dealt with the pregnancy was Vision Scarlet Witch. Despite that, he also dealt. No, he didn't do it. They do bring up in here not only the Vision and Scarlet Witch stuff, they also bring up Avengers 200. Yes, it's referenced in here, but it's not like the way it was. But you read this, like, really? He referenced Avengers 200? Yeah, well, the whole thing of Miss Marvel when she was pregnant and she gave birth to her lover. Like, it's weird. Then she gives birth, and then toward the end of the story arc, Luke Cage proposed to her because basically he admits he's in love with her. And he felt as though it's the right thing. And then she looks at the baby afterwards, like, yeah, I'll marry your daddy. And then we have the annual, which apparently, the line at this point is, this of course is New Avengers. This came out basically in 2006, mind you. Like, you think, wow, that's like 19 years ago, prior to the Civil War 1. So at this point, this is of course before Civil War 1. So it's Luke Cage, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Spider-Woman, who's actually revealed to be a Skrull at this point in time. The Sentry. I'm trying to think who else was it. It was Miss Marvel was in the book as a supporting character, but she never officially joined Team Issue 48. Yeah. So then, of course, they have like a fight with some power zapping villain who apparently has got the powers of old enemy of the Century, the Void, which is just another personality of his. And then, of course, they're making the mayor of New York, which I don't know if he was the mayor at this point in time, because it could have been Giuliani. I'm not sure. So yeah, and also they bring in Yelena, who was actually last seen at this point in time in the first, so I think it was the last issue 6 of New Avengers, I think it was. Yeah, 6 New Avengers. Or she's put in the hospital and then she gets killed off this issue. But don't worry, she comes back and of course fights a woman named Connolly. And then afterwards we have the famous wedding. And by the way, the minister is Stan Lee. No joke, it's him. So this was the first time she appeared since the issue 6 New Avengers, and then she came back after this. Somehow, someway she survived, despite the fact she clearly died. Yep. Now, Conley is just a villain who's associated with Spider-Woman. Yeah, but in the case of this book overall, was really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yep. And so this annual takes place after issue 17 of the main Avengers book. Also in the flashback in the last issue, she ends up fighting the Owl. Yep, the Owl. Yeah, and the kid is later named to be Danielle Cage, and she's no longer a baby. Nope. They say as of the variant number 2, which are alternate versions of Jessica Jones, which came out just a few years ago, she is now 3.5. Very cute little girl. And that's The Post. An absolute amazing book. Bendis himself, this is the period of time where clearly the man he knows what he's doing. This is basically, you could say, this is a very popular point in his career. Yes, a very popular point. Sorry about that. The power flicker, but I think the Wi-Fi is fine. Yeah, it's fine. So, yeah, basically, Bendis could do no wrong this period of time. The 2000s were a very good period for him. Yeah, a very good period. The man basically put out hit after hit after hit after hit. The only kind of miss basically this period of time was probably Avengers Assembled, but a lot of the books basically put out were really good. Yeah. And then was the 2010s, where in terms of his Marvel creativity, I'd say the first half of the decade was really good for him. Yeah, still continued the trend of putting out hit after hit after hit. Then came the last few years of his time at Marvel Comics, where after Secret Wars, he was reduced down to do about 4 titles. That being Spider-Man, of course, Miles Morales book, Defenders, Iron Man, let's see, there's Jessica Jones, and first it was International Iron Man, and then got replaced with Infamous Iron Man, aka Doctor Doom 1, which is and basically the artist Alex Malee basically agreed with me on this premise, on the whole premise of that book. It's a Fantastic Four book without the Fantastic Four, which he did agree with me. That was the whole point of the book. Yep. But this particular book was the last major in-universe book for me to cover when it comes to Brian Michael Bendis' This Time of Our Comics. If you're thinking, like, what's left? There's stuff published for Icon, Ultimate Spider-Man, still got to cover that one. Ultimate Origins. I still got good lot left to go, but as for stuff published on the 616, the main universe stuff, this is the last thing I had to cover. Because with this, I've covered virtually everything. Everything he put out. And some might say in the comments, what about his Tale of X-Men stuff? Well, I kind of felt as though that was not his idea. That was probably editorial mandate with that one. I have met Michael Bendis. I haven't asked him about that one, but there is no denying. The Pulse is fantastic. So I think with this book, like, why did it end at 14 issues? Could have been low sales. Given how this book was coming here, given the fact this is actually one of it, I think as far as I can tell, the time this book came out, by the time it ended, I think it was Bendis' shortest run he ever did for a book. Because when you see him do a book, he does it for a long period of time. The only book that's shorter than this one is Run for Defenders. That was 10 issues. 10! So I think it was Iron Book. That's something else altogether. But as for Jessica Jones herself, well, after this, she basically was continued featured in New Avengers for quite a while after this, up until around 2012, where she left the team, and then she later popped up, I believe, in Mighty Avengers a year later. What wasn't that book up until around Secret Wars. And then after Secret Wars, we had her being Power Man and Fist. Then later got her own solo title back. As Jessica Jones was last 18 issues, which is the second longest run of all of her books. And then Bendis left. And that book was resolved under it, and then she had another like mini-series. She was all featured in like books like Deadpool, some Spider-Man stuff, because she went to the same high school as Peter Parker, where apparently she had a crush on him. Yes, seriously. But there's no denying the fact Jessica Jones has been active. What is she doing now? Why, she's the wife of the mayor of New York, because Luke Cage is the mayor. As for Danielle, she has aged very slowly. By the way, the Variants, that came out 3 years ago. Her debut was back in 2005, I think it was. Oh no, 2006. So it's been 19 years since her debut. But yet, in universe, she's only aged 3 years. And she's not annoying. She's an absolute great character. Also, she has an awesome grandpa in the form of Luke Cage's father, James Lucas. And he's an awesome character because of the fact he's part of the Avengers of the 70s. Yeah, as for Jessica Jones' father, this guy by the name of David Campbell, and apparently, like, he and his wife are apparently the parents, Yeah, they don't want to do that in a car crash. Oh, and in case you're curious, though, in book, does Luke Cage's father, does he spoil his granddaughter? Yeah, he does. As a matter of fact, there was a funny bit Al Ewing wrote where the leader, one of the people part of the Mighty Avengers, like, okay, James, you're on babysit duty because he's old. Which, of course, I'm sure that probably he had no problem with that at all. Not really, no. Yeah, but I love this book. Yeah, but these are the books overall left to go for. Well, we got Ultimate. Oh, I almost forgot Daredevil Ninja. I think I did review this one already, so I don't have to worry about that one. So, In Universe is just. I don't think there's anything for In-Universe. I'm looking at it right now. Excuse me. I don't think there's anything left to go for him. No. Not really. I've covered pretty much everything he worked on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in case you're wondering, what was his last book of work for Marvel? Was Iron Man 600. Yeah, Vince Arm 600 was actually the last book he worked on. That was back in 2018. Those that might be curious, though, is there any hope that he might come back to Marvel? I don't think he will. Quite honestly. No, not really. That's honest truth, but I don't think he has any desire to go back to Marvel Comics. I think because basically, I don't think it's because of a bridge burnt per se. I don't know if that was the case. I think the reason why he left was because at the time he left, he probably did everything he wanted to do in Marvel Comics. He wrote every single character he wanted to write, no matter how long he wrote the character. But that's probably the reason why he left. He probably felt as though he probably ran out of ideas in Marvel Comics. That's probably the reason why he went over to DC. Now, given the fact his DC run is very mixed at best, and he wasn't there very long. No, he was there for maybe about 3 or 4 years, and he left. Yeah, 3 or 4 years. Then he left. Now he's a Dark Horse. Yeah, and people's biggest criticism of Bendis is that he takes on way too many books. Like, I think there was one joke he had, there was a joke people had that he had about 10 books writing at the same time. Based upon the research I've seen, not the case. I think the most he ever took at one point was 5. But I don't think he ever took as much as people think he did. I would probably recommend looking up the release dates of all of his books and see when they're published. Because when I started reading comics, he was still writing Marvel Comics. This book was coming out basically a year after I started reading comics. I did it later on. I like the fact that some of the stuff in this book was continued over New Avengers. Yep. But not much to leave in this video. Time to end it here. Because next up is Case Closed. Hey, next video. Bye.